Hello, and thanks for joining me. This is Dr. Heather Clark of Vibrant Again with Profound Self-Care, the series. Because self-care is an act of self-love is a form of authenticity, and authenticity energizes. We're going to be talking about boundaries for profound self-care. And a boundary is essentially a limit that you set, and it's a conscious, healthy way to really protect ourselves from harm. And when something is in bounds, it's acceptable. It's consistent with your value system. It's something you want. When it's out of bounds, it's unacceptable, inappropriate, and sometimes even violating. And a lot of clients have some trouble getting their heads around this, but what's really true is that boundaries are a gateway to joy and a great way to protect your energy. Now, depending on how you're raised, it may feel very rude to set boundaries, especially those of us who are raised in the Midwest, where being nice is of paramount importance. Nice is not the same as self-care. And true, profound self-care with healthy boundaries doesn't mean that you're not being nice. Poor boundaries can result from all kinds of things, but the most common is a dysfunctional environment or negative beliefs like, well, it's wrong to do that, or, oh, I'm not really good enough, or things like that, or it's not okay to stand up for myself. If you've got poor boundaries, you might be running into issues like codependency, a little victimization, or even being manipulated. Now, true, healthy boundaries come from love and respect for yourself and for other people. And healthy boundaries are essential for peace and connection. They help you define and protect your values. And boundaries are a fantastic life skill and especially useful in environments that have controlling people or people who aren't taking responsibility for their own lives. And interestingly, those are some of the same people that are very likely to get angry when you set boundaries in your life. Don't let that deter you, because the people who are getting angry are the boundary crossers, the bullies, and the manipulators. These are the people that dress up a request or a demand as a request. And when you've got a boundary and you say no, that's when you find out that they weren't really asking. The trouble is, unless you've got healthy boundaries, you may find yourself trying to mitigate that problem so you don't have to deal with their anger. And that can show up as people pleasing, rescuing other people, and approval seeking. Now, interestingly, when you deal with boundaries, you deal with anger, but not just from other people. It can also be anger from within you. And this is actually fabulous because anger, while being unpopular, widely considered a negative emotion, it's simply an emotion. When you experience anger, that's a soul signal that you've had a boundary violated. So if you're mad, that means somebody has crossed a boundary. Great information, because then at that point you can simply feel the anger. Once you're done feeling the anger, then clearly identify, well, what was the boundary that was crossed? And then at that point, you can reestablish the boundary. With practice, this can happen in the moment, but at first it may take minutes, hours, days, sometimes even weeks to get there, but the journey's worth it. It's also important to remember that you don't need permission from anybody to set boundaries. You're not setting boundaries to offend anybody or to please anybody. You're setting boundaries for your own self-care, out of self-respect and self-love. Thank you so much for joining me for Boundaries for Profound Self-Care, and join me for the next in the series.